Hi everyone. As we haven't been able to meet as a group, this is just a quick overview of the Black Death assignment expectations. I'll be flicking between documents, so apologies if it gets a little bit jumpy. First up, an overview. The assignment requires that the students use 4 sources. Just come back to this. That the students use 4 sources. Okay, 2 primary and 2 secondary. They also need a mix of books and digital references. The books have been put aside in the library, and Tahani is working out and has sent connections to a database that the students can access. Contact her for more details on that. There are 3 parts to the assignment. The handwritten research journal does need a bibliography. I am asking my students to set up 2 pages in their journal. 1 page is their bibliography draft. The page right next door to it is their bibliography good copy, so we can go through and work that out. They need a 3 to 4 minute multimodal in character. Now, the multimodal, most students tend to choose a PowerPoint to have as a background, but a multimodal can also include things such as a Prezi, a video, dressing up in costume, using music. Basically, it's more than one mode of presentation, so they're adding something to their speech. They also need the transcript of their speech handed in, and if they have something audio-visual in the background, their printed slides need to be there. We are having 1 draft only, and that is of the script only. You do not draft the multimodal component of this. Okay, on the task sheet that I have done up, basically the stuff that the kids need to do is in blue. Tell them to do the blue. While there is room on here for them to write their focus questions, I would also strongly encourage that the focus questions are written up in their journal. It's a good idea to remind them that the sources can be literary or non-literary. For example, Holbein's woodcuts are very useful, and there are lots of paintings and drawings from this era, even in the textbook, that they can use as primary sources. Okay, the bibliography detail is there. There's a planning step for their presentation, and there is a separate checklist. I didn't put it in here, but I'm not going to hand that out until a little bit later on, as it just gets too confusing for the kids. Okay, so what do they have to do? First up, make sure that they're doing a CUP for 1 primary and 1 secondary source. This is the sheet that we are encouraging them to use, courtesy of the lovely Amy Green. The students can write this straight onto the sheet, or if they've got bigger writing or they write more, they can draw up their own table. I would strongly encourage that they do this for the primary source as a visual, particularly if you have SWD kids, but it's up to them. Make sure they have an overarching question and focus questions. There are sections in the history skills part of Oxford Text where you can take the kids through on those steps, also the PowerPoint I sent out. 2-column note-taking means that the students aren't just putting down what was there in the book, but they're also putting it in their own words. This sheet has been supplied. I'm giving my students 1 copy of this sheet each, and expecting that they will draw this up in their journal and record this information for each source that they use. We have set that up in their little books. The oral needs to be in role. It can't just be standing up and answering the focus questions, unless that's an adaptation for your SWD students. Okay. Suggested adaptations. For SWD kids, basically these are adaptations, not modifications, where you reduce the reading requirements, like fewer sources or using more visual or YouTube sources, reducing the writing length. They can use typed rather than handwritten journal notes, even voice to text if that's available to them. They could record their presentation rather than present in class. For high ability students, a suggestion is that they focus on using mostly primary sources. You could encourage additional CUP, and if they need to increase the length of their presentation, if they have enough research to support it, negotiate a length, but if it's just waffling on, no, they need to learn to be precise. And finally, with using the criteria, unless the task has been substantially modified, if we've changed the purpose, the thinking skills, or the content, then all students are assessed against the Year 8 history criteria. The adaptations I've just suggested do not require a change in marking criteria and standards, so we use the Year 8. If, however, you have a student whose assessment has been modified, you will need to use modified criteria and standards, for example, by going back to Year 7 or lower levels. However, that has to be acknowledged on a modified report, and Justine is your person for that.